What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to continue on passports, specifically this document right here, right, which is a document from Congress, right, one of their subcommittees. This was printed in 1966, but it was originally written in 1956 and then published for the first time in 1958. But here it is in Congress's paper in their committee in 1966. So it's called Passports and the Right to Travel, a study of administrative control of the citizen, prepared by the Legislative Reference Service, Library of Congress, for the Subcommittee on State Department Organization and Foreign Operations of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. And there you see the citation. It's 89th Congress, second session. All right. I'm not going to read this whole document. This document is 300 pages. But it is a history of the passport. So I will read that. I won't be reading some statutes and stuff, but there's some stuff I will be skipping. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. It's, like I said, it's 300 pages. It doesn't really look like it, but it is. It's pretty thick. All right, so I'm going to start with this section right here. It says Passports and the Right to Travel, a study of administrative control of the citizen. Part 1, Legal Background and American Usage. The exact origin of the use of passports has been lost in the mist of time. They are of very ancient lineage. In the Old Testament, Nehemiah, then a cupbearer at the court of Atraxus, the king of Persia, stated, "Moreover, I said unto the king, if it pleases the king, let letters to be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may let me pass through till I come unto Judah." So that's the first reference to asking permission from your king or whatever to go outside of your country. In an article contributed in 1906, the Journal of the Society of Comparative Legislation, right, N.W. Sibley, The Passport System, Volume 7, it is indicated that the common law rule in England has been that no man might leave the realm without license from the king, which is what it seems to that they want to do today, right? We have to ask for permission. But do we really need to? Right? That ultimately that will be the question, and that'll be all for all of you to decide after reading this document. It says, leaving the realm, the attitude of the common law. It clearly confirms the view that the original aspect of the common law to the subject of leaving the realm was one of prohibition, meaning you can't do it, unless by license or passport. That Sir Leoline Jenkins wrote from Nimeguen to Sir Temple at The Hague. And he writes, no subject of our masters will put the case at home. No subject of our masters can by the law go out of his dominions without his leave, nor in this leave, whether it be expressed or by implication, as in the case of merchants and seafaring men. Granted, there is a time always supposed for his return. I mean, when the king had need of his service, and in the case of every man of quality, it is always prefixed. And they cite Life and Letters of Sir Leon Jenkins, Volume 2, page 713, referred to in Sir R. Fillmore, Institutional Law, Volume 1. At the date of this letter, the statute of 1382, giving permission to lords, notable merchants, and king's soldiers to pass over the seas, having long been repealed, the question of leaving the realm must have reverted to the position it stood at the common law. And Sir Leoline Jenkins states no less explicitly that Britain, that the common law, with the exceptions arising under the Magna Carta, prohibited persons leaving the realm without license. This seems to establish that passports are documents of high antiquity, granted by the king in his capacity as generalissimo of the realm. I'm going to just say king, right? But let's find out. Let's take a quick look if it comes out correctly. Sometimes the words don't get spelled out. Means an Italian term is the absolute superlative generale, thus meaning the highest ranking of all generals. Commander-in-chief, right? Highest commander in the realm, all right. A passage in Vattel, I'm going to guess is Law of Nature, seems indirectly to confirm this, inasmuch as it seems to show that in absolute monarchies, the practice was to prohibit persons leaving the realm. Vattel observes that, finally, there are states where the rigor of the government will not permit anyone whatsoever to go out of the country without passports in form, which are not even granted without great difficulty. The above view is, of course, quite contrary to the view that everyone at the common law can leave the realm without license. Right? The above view, which is what has been, right? The above view is of course quite contrary to the view that everyone at the common law can leave the realm without license, and they quote Blackstone. But the fact that as much as at a much later date, a statute was passed requiring aliens to take out a passport on leaving the realm seems on the whole to support the view that the rule of the common law was to prohibit leaving the realm unless with license. The common law, on this view, prohibited persons leaving the realm on the ground that by this the king was deprived of the military service of his subjects. But this reason could not apply to aliens. Therefore, it was found necessary to pass a statute prohibiting them leaving the realm unless with license or under passport. In my opinion, there's a whole lot of people that wouldn't survive under the common law. They think the common law is something other than what it is, and no one really has done any research on that. They just talk. Blackstone, whose commentaries on the laws of England, 1765, had an enormous effect upon the legal doctrines and thinking of the American colonies, suggest otherwise. He states that under the common law, every man may go out of his realm for whatever cause he pleases, without obtaining the king's leave, although by writ of ne extiat regno. I don't know what that means. Oops. Oh my God. Sorry about that. I'm going to look up that word though. Can't continue without knowing what all the words are. It might take longer, but it is what it is. The phrase, let him not leave the kingdom, has also been used in English law. Let him not leave the kingdom. Although by writ of not letting him leave the kingdom, the king could prohibit a man's departure or recall him if he had gone abroad. I'll highlight all that right there. Oh my God, why is it doing that? Blackstone states, and likewise, the right which the king has whenever he sees proper of confining his subjects to stay within the realm, or of recalling them when beyond the seas. By the common law, every man may go out of the realm for whatever cause he pleaseth, without obtaining the king's leave. By the common law, every man may go out of the realm of whatever for whatever cause he pleases without obtaining the king's leave, provided he is under no injunction of staying at home. Now, in today's context, injunction would mean some national interest to prohibit you from leaving, like if we're at war with that country. Or other similar things, but that's at least the first one that pops into my head, the national interest. The compelling public interest to restrict your right to travel, which liberty was expressly declared in King John's Great Charter, though left out in that of Henry III. But because that every man ought of right to defend the king and his realm, therefore the king at his pleasure may command him by his writ that he go not beyond the seas, or out of the realm without license. And if he do the contrary, he shall be punished for disobeying the king's command. Some persons there anciently were that by reason of their stations, which this is important, this is their status, were under a perpetual prohibition of going abroad without license obtained, among which were reckoned all peers, on account of their being counselors of the crown, all knights who were bound to defend the kingdom from invasions, all clergy, right, ecclesiastics, who were expressly confined by the 4th chapter of the Constitutions of Clarendon, on account of their attachment to the times of popery to the see of Rome, all archers and other artificers, lest they should instruct foreigners to rival us in their several trades and manufactures. This was the law in the times of Britain, who wrote in the reign of Edward I. And here, if you pay attention, right, who are they describing right here? Officers. This is who they're describing. They're not describing the peasants in any way. They're describing agents of the crown. Which is how it should be, because those are the ones with trusted information and trusted whatever. People should know where the fuck they're going. We, not everyone else, but we, the government, the people, whatever, should know where they're going. And Sir Edward Coke gives us many instances to this effect in the time of Edward III. In the succeeding reign, the affair of traveling wore a very different aspect. An act of parliament being made forbidding all persons whatever to go abroad without license, except only the lords and other great men of the realm, and true and notable merchants, and the king's soldiers. But this act was repealed by the statute for Jack 1, Clause 1. I don't know what that is. And at present, everybody has, or at least assumes, the liberty of going abroad when he pleases. Yet, undoubtedly, if the king, by writ of exeat regnum, under this great seal or privy seal, thinks proper to prohibit him from doing so, or if the king sends a writ to any man when abroad commanding his return, and in either case the subject disobeys, it is a high contempt of the king's prerogative, for which the offender's lands shall be seized till he return, and then he is liable to the fine and imprisonment. That's a lot to take right there. But nonetheless, the idea that we have thought about the right to travel and being able to leave the country and stuff like that, the original principle under the common law was not that we think today. So, but the thing is too, is you have to understand that we did adopt the common law for every state in the country, right? But it's the states have amended the common law. And this right here is a good amendment of the common law. Even though technically it was amended, but it was amended because of authors of authority were preaching it, that this is the thing, this is how it should be. And that's how the states adopted it. Right? Through our own writers, right? Through our own system that we're creating. A, the Department of State and the issuance of passports. Under the Articles of Confederation, all of the foreign affairs of the central government had been handled by the Department of Foreign Affairs. So that's what it was called before. After the adoption of the Constitution, this department was reconstituted by the Act of July 27, 1789, 1 Stat 28. And in September of that year, the name was changed to the Department of State by another act, September 15th. The title of the office of the secretary in charge became the Secretary of State. Passports probably had been issued by the State Department from its earliest days, however. Their earliest is found in the records, appears to have been issued July 9th, 1796. So what is that? 7 years after the Department of State was reconstituted. They give you a thing, the American Passport, GPO. I'm going to guess that's government publishing office or whatever. But let's look this up. Let's see what it gives me. Oh my God, what did I do that for? All this is all you got to do. This is like a given. Look at American Passport. Google Books. Well, at least now I know it's on that. I'm going to look it up on the website. Google Books. Google Books is a very good place if you guys want a source of information. Right? How do I take this off now? Okay. And it says, it is as follows: to all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. The bearer hereof, Francis Marie Beret, a citizen of the United States. Now they're saying citizen of the United States for a passport on 1796. So for whatever that means to you, that's what it means to you. What it means to me, it's going to be different than what you think. Having occasion to pass into foreign countries about his lawful affairs, these are to pray to all whom it may concern, to permit the said Francis Marie Beret, he demeaning himself well and peacefully, meaning he's not a troublemaker or a pauper, right? A public charge, to pass wheresoever his lawful pursuits may call him, freely and without let or molestation in going, staying or returning, and to give him all friendly aid and protection as these United States would do to their citizens in the like case. I like how they write these United States. The first, or at least one of the, at least that they could find at this time. In faith thereof, I have caused the seal of the Department of State for the said United States to be hereunto affixed, done at Philadelphia this 8th day of July in the year of our Lord 1796, and of the independence of these states the 21st. And this is how I write my date. I don't really do it in the year of our Lord, but this right here is a date. The whole thing. Even though he gives two references for a date, right? So the first one is, of course, the birth of Christ, right? 1796. The second one is in reference to the independence of these states. So he's speaking on the 21st year from their independence. We say 1776. It's really 1775, just the paperwork came out in 1776. That's why it's 21 years instead of 20. This right here is to me, finding things like this to be able to write in your documents is a great thing. So, Timothy Pickering, Secretary of State. This is endorsed, though within mentioned Francis Paris Beret has presented this passport to me this day, the 14th of August, being on his way to Madrid. Given under my hand in this city of Cadiz, the day above mentioned in the year 1796. That's the consul for the United States ambassador, I think. The first special passport found seems to have been issued by John Quincy Adams, then Secretary of State, on March 27, 1819, as follows. Okay, so this is the first special passport. To all whom these present shall come, the bearer hereof, John Henry Purviance, charged with public dispatches to the minister plenipotentiary of the United States at Madrid upon the voyage. These are therefore to request all whom it may concern to permit the said John H. Purviance to pass without let or molestation in going, staying, or returning, and to give him all friendly aid and protection, as these United States will give in like cases. I like how they give. Why do you think they give protection here? Why do you think they capitalize protection? Did you do it down here? No, down right here. The first one was a small p. And why do you think? You would think it would have more meaning because it came from John Adams, right? So why do you think he would put a capital P for protection? All right, I think this is the part that I'm not going to be reading all, right? But this is legislation, the historical stuff, right? So outside of reading the first couple, right? I'm going to let you guys do that for the most part. But then it gives you legislation up to this date. So, of course, up to this date is 1966. Right? So all these right here are things that a lot of them are not in the statutes or codes anymore, right? Because some of them were unconstitutional. But some of them have not changed at all. Like there's literally nothing that has changed in most of these. You know what I'm saying? Look at 211A. That was from 1926. That was the act of 1926 that did that. You're like this. No passport shall be granted or issued to or verified for any other persons other than those owing allegiance, whether citizens or not, to the United States. And these are given forgery and all that shit. But you gotta understand, these are all under different titles too. But these are all specific stuff that apply to passports. So these are all rules, regulations, and stuff that apply to passports. So I'm gonna read the first couple. Historical. Passports appear to have been the subject of legislation beginning in 1790 as follows. The Act of April 30, 1790, Section 28, so this is 1 Stat 118, provided punishment for violation of any safe conduct or passport issued by the United States. They don't say what specifically, they're just saying that this statute provided punishment for violations of safe conduct or passport issued or whatever that covers, So 1776, June 1st, provided for passports for ship and vessels of the United States. Obsolete. Use of sea letters and passports was discontinued by presidential proclamation in 1815. No further notations will be included herein of acts dealing with clearance of vessels. This is June 30th of 1834. Foreigners required to obtain a passport from the War Department to go into a or remain in Indian country. Indian countries, they would construe that as a hostile territory too. So, the signing and verification of passports by consuls to be free. That's 1855. That the Secretary of State shall be authorized to grant and issue passports and cause passports to be granted, issued, and verified in foreign countries by such diplomatic and consular officers of the United States and under such rules. See, like this right here is almost damn near the same. This is them giving authority to the Secretary of State to have accepting agencies and authorizing agents. That's what this is. I'm going to skim through all this though. Same thing with the criteria too, of what you need to get a passport. Like, it hasn't changed either, aside from adding a couple things. That so much of the act approved the 18th of August, 1856, entitled An Act to Regulate the Diplomatic and Consular Systems of the United States, as prohibits the granting of passports to any other than citizens of the United States, shall be and is hereby repealed, so far as the prohibition may embrace any class of persons liable to military duty by the laws of the United States. So these are given. I'm going to skip these. I'm scanning through them to make sure I don't miss nothing. The good stuff is yet to come, aside from the first couple pages of this book. There is one about communism here that I do want to read, though. Authorize the Secretary of State to grant the issue passports and cause their issuance by United States diplomatic and consular representatives abroad and by the chief or executive officer of the United States into their possessions under the rules prescribed by the President, valid for 2 years. So this is over there, the insular possessions. Now they're giving passports to them over there. Why? Because they're nationals. They're not citizens. They owe allegiance, though. But today's days, 10 years for renewals. Back then it was 2 years. They extended it to 4 years, somewhere around here. So here again, right, it's a lot of these are going to be a repetition, right, but some are not, right? So look at President legislation all the way through 1966, right? And these for sure are damn near the same as today. The only one that isn't is, of course, the communist shit, the one that was found to be unconstitutional. I'm going to read these. Right here, the term passport means any travel document issued by a competent authority showing the bearer's origin, identity, and nationality. And that's how it's always been. They don't ask you citizenship. They ask you your nationality. Your nationality determines your citizenship, which is valid for the entry of a bearer into a foreign country. So for those who don't have a nationality, right, what did they do? They expatriated. They don't have that criteria. They expatriated from wherever they were at. Travel control of citizens and aliens during war or national emergency, which is the same as today. Restrictions and prohibitions on aliens. When the United States is at war or during the existence of any national emergency proclaimed by the President, or as to aliens whenever there exists a state of war between or among two or more states, and the President shall find that the interests of the United States require that restrictions and prohibitions in addition to those provided otherwise than by this section be imposed upon the departure of persons from and their entry into the United States, and shall make public proclamation thereof, it shall, until otherwise ordered by the President of the Congress, be unlawful. And these are, of course, emergency powers. It's always going to be like that. It's always about emergency powers. national shit, all that stuff. But this is all the same pertaining to the passport. That hasn't changed. B. Citizens, after such proclamation as is provided for the subsection A of this section has been made and published, and while such proclamation is in force, it shall, except as otherwise provided by the President, and subject to such limitations and exceptions as the President may authorize and prescribe, be unlawful for any citizen of the United States to depart from or enter or attempt to depart or enter the United States unless he bears a valid passport. And here they give a definition. This is not the same definitions as the same definition as in 1101 of Title 8. This is in a whole different title. I think they give it to us here. Right, 1185, yeah, Section 1185. It still exists as the same one. So that definition in the United States is not the same as in 1101. I think it's number 38. So that tells you that this definition is specific to Section 1185 and nowhere else. Skip this. Here they got another title now. Criminal procedure, issuance without authority, false statements on the passport. A lot of these things are the same. Fraud, misuse. No person shall be prosecuted, tried, or punished for violation of any provision of sections 1423, 28 inclusive, and through 28 inclusive of Chapter 69, and Section 1541 through 44 inclusive of Chapter 75 of Title 8, for conspiracy to violate any of the aforementioned sections unless the indictment is found or the information is instituted within 10 years. You know what? That's the thing that they're discussing today, too. Like a lot of these Supreme Court judges and stuff in these court cases is this right here. Information. When it should be just indictment by, into a grand jury and shit. So again, here's a repeat of the same authority to grant issue passports. Who's entitled? Validity of passport or visa. Limitation of time, renewal, all that shit is the same. Maybe the years have different. Here's Title 50, War and National Defense, Internal Security, denial of passports to members of communist organizations, and what's it call it? That the court case that is Kent versus Dulles. It found this as unconstitutional. The judge basically told them that you cannot restrict their entitlement to a passport. Now, it's not a restriction of your right to travel. That is indirectly. That they cannot be restricted to the entitlement of a passport on the sole basis of what they believe, what is in their head. Outside of showing violent behavior, attempts to throw over the government and shit like that, they can't do that. When a communist organization, as defined in paragraph 5 of section 782 of this title, so Title 50, is registered, is registered, and there is in effect a final order of the board requiring such organization to register, it shall be unlawful for any member of such organization with knowledge or notice that such organization is so registered or that such order has become final to make application for a passport. They're telling him you can't get him. They're telling him because he's a part of this association, right, that he can't get a passport. This has been thrown out the window completely. And this is, of course, the restriction to make, to use or attempt to use any such passport, because that's what it is there. It's always going to be in reference to the passport. It's not your specific right to travel. It's a document that aids you or assists you in your right to travel. But it is a piece of property that it belongs to the government for their specific purposes. That's something that gotta be remembered. It's for their specific purposes. When an organization is registered and there is in effect a final order, I already read that. For present regulations issued under the authority see 22 CFR 51.135, 134, and 135. They had that changes because this is, I don't recall seeing this no more under 22 CFR. Next section is penalties and so forth. All right. This next section is going to be the good part, but I'm going to stop for now and then continue on right afterwards. But this is what we've been waiting for right here. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If not, I don't know what to tell you. Until next time, guys. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and whatever else and share.